Was DC not good? That one I like. So this one's what's that?
We're trying to change it all.
Heather, how do we do?
I think we got
Got it? Okay. Heather, did you hear from Jackie?
Jackie texted me and said she had a migraine.
Oh, shit.
I think that's what she said.
I know Nancy wants to Byron, are you ready? Okay. We're going to call the City Council work session to order tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about budget information and explanations. Ms. Schmidt.
Yes, thank you very much. First, I want to apologize for the weird email you got this morning that said I wasn't going to be in the office all day. That was really supposed to get to you Friday morning, but due to some technical snafus that didn't work out so well. So, apologize on that. So, seems that we have a number of newer counselors and that we're talking about some potential larger needs than we have in the past as far as our budget. As we kind of came out of the goal setting, I felt like we ought to have some discussions prior to a budget committee meeting just to kind of get a handle where we're at, what things are, how things look, and maybe get into just making sure we understand how the budget functions. So what I want to cover in this first hour, we're going to do a real basic discussion about fund accounting, talk a little bit more about the general fund, then get to the police department more specifically, then talk a little bit about potential options for how we can kind of make that work. And then we've had some questions about how the fire district is funded and how our relationship financially with them. And so wanted to talk a little bit about that. Great to see some representatives from the fire district here that can help us clarify things as we talk about that. So, first thing, fund accounting came about for governments or nonprofits who weren't really interested in profitability. That's what accounting in general helps us understand in a business setting. Are we profitable? You know, making sure we do that. With fund accounting, it's more about accountability. Are we showing where we're spending the money that we receive? So that's really the goal. So in the city's budget, and I may have counted wrong, so Mark might correct me, but I think we have 21 funds.
That's close.
Okay, maybe more then. So some of them are project focused, so they're going to come and go as we finish a project. So we have the City Hall construction fund. That's going to go away as we've completed that and we move along. Others we have are really purpose focused. So we have fund number 13 is Hermiston Energy Services. So all of the expenses and all of the revenues that go with Hermiston Energy Services are in that fund, and so we can be accountable for those dollars in relationship to just that fund. And you know, there are fees that fund pays to the general fund or to other funds in the city, but we can show that. We show that as a transfer, and that's very clear that the cost for Hermiston Energy Services is paid for out of that fund. It also, you know, this is really a not necessarily a requirement, but it is something that we do. So taking HES as an example, all of the electric revenues and costs stay within that fund. We don't, you know, there's no specific law that says we have to do that. We could take a 10% charge and bring it to the general fund every year, but we don't. We do pay for costs, so costs that HES exerts on the general fund, they do pay a fee. They also, HES pays a franchise fee to the city that comes to the general fund. But that is a cost that is common to a utility, and so it's captured there in that one fund. So then we come to a more general use fund. So we have the general fund. Here's a list of not all of the departments, but this is the major departments that we fund out of the general fund. In the last adopted budget, $16.7 million is what all of these departments cost. We have, I put 7.1 there in parentheses because that's how much is property tax out of that fund, 7.1 million. Then I also pointed out, because we're focusing a little bit tonight on the police department, $6.1 million for the police department. So that's a little more than a third of the general fund's costs are the police department. So it's, even if it weren't important just for a community, it's important financially because it's a big chunk of what we do, but it's important for the safety of our community. So from a historical perspective, one of the things we've talked about is just needing potentially some additional officers. So in 2000, we had 20 officers with about 13,000 in population. In 2022, we have 30 officers with almost 20,000 in population. Now, those are actually, as I was doing a little bit of analysis, it's about the same percentage growth if you look at it. But it doesn't really take into account a couple other factors that we don't have all of the numbers for here, and that is our call volumes are going way up as a percentage. They are not going at the same growth rate as those other two items. So that's a factor that's not in there. And then I believe, if I'm remembering what the chief has said, we have maintained a 2-person minimum staffing requirement for at least 30 years in the department. Now, if you think about that, a 2-person staffing requirement in the year 2000 with 13,000 people, and we're talking about the same requirement we anticipate at the end of this year that we'll go over 20,000 on the PSC population estimates. That doesn't add up. That doesn't calculate well for being able to adequately be safe for the residents. And so that's another factor that we need to think about as we talk about staffing. So these are a little harder to see, but I wanted to just show the current organizational chart for the police department. Basically, we have 4 teams, and the patrol side is on the left of each of those charts. So we have 4 basically squads, or some term like that, groups that are led by a sergeant, have a corporal, and then they have 2 officers. And the way we have them set out right now is on 412. So we have 2 AM and 2 PM teams that function. And there's lots of reason that's worked really well, and we like it. But to really fully staff that model is the reason why we talked with you about the potential for 3 new officers. So on the proposed, what we're moving forward with right now to propose to you and the budget committee is the same structure: a sergeant, a corporal, but 3 officers in each team. And with that, we would be able to increase our minimum staffing to 3 so that we could provide better coverage throughout the city. Any questions on this so far?
Myron, so the officers, maybe it's a better question for Jason, the officers and the corporal and the sergeant, are they all eligible to go out on the street?
Yes.
Okay, so you potentially could have 5 individuals,
Right.
not just 3 or 4.
Right, I mean, right now we have 4, and we're proposing that we would want to go to 5.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So when a shift would be fully staffed, nobody's out on vacation or sick, 5 people available to be on the street.
And as I've understood it in the past, that's been the challenge.
Right, I mean, we've been short officers for various reasons. We still have one out that's on workers' comp. We've got other challenges in keeping that staffing. Now, if you'll see, we under the current staffing, we have a couple of kind of fill-in officers. They also work traffic when they don't need to fill in on a shift. And so that's how when we proposed the budget last year, is that we would have these to help fill those shifts when they weren't up to that minimum staffing, or when they were available and we needed to have that. So what this would do would go down to 1 traffic officer, but then 5 people available on each shift.
So the 1 traffic officer is doing a typical 40-hour week.
Right.
So we're not covering 24 hours a day.
Not the increased level that we're talking about. Now, all of the officers are still encouraged to do traffic, but the targeted traffic officer wouldn't be, it wouldn't be somebody that's available 24/7.
Gotcha. And so, Jason, what percentage of your staff currently is out? Like vacation, sick leave, parental leave, whatever, on a regular basis?
Over the last couple of years, it's been extremely challenging. I'm not sure the exact percentage. As of right now, we have 1 vacancy that is budgeted for. 2 weeks ago, I gave a conditional offer to an entry level. The earliest academy slot's August 14th, so we're not starting that person until July 1st. That's one of the big challenges, is aside from finding qualified people.
TPS.
Yep, and we've always been willing to hire entry-level folks to train them the Hermiston way, as cliche as that may sound, but that's the reality we're dealing with right now. So to your question, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of anywhere from, over the last couple of years, 15 to as high as 30%.
City Manager Smith, question, when I was looking at the organizational chart, I didn't see the reserves. Was that just missing, or?
Well, I mean, this is just our full-time staffing, and we basically utilize reserves for events. Is that correct, Chief?
So several years ago, when we started down the potential path of accreditation, the problem with one of the measures of accreditation is ensuring your reserve officers are comparably trained as full-time officers. It's very challenging. Historically we've hired, I don't remember the percentage, but there's about at least 10 officers that came from our reserves that are current officers. So we've seen the benefit, but then we have not re-energized, for lack of better words, our reserve program because of some of the constraints with accreditation and then potential other legislation with regard to police reform and training, to make sure that a person that has a full-time job, it's going to be very challenging to train them the same way.
Understood. So does that mean that we're going away with that because of accreditation and I guess the difficulty, or am I hearing that right, Chief?
So accreditation's on hold.
Okay.
I've put it on hold just from a pure staffing issue. We currently have 2 limited reserve officers, and we have had internal discussions about how do we re-energize that program. So we're still trying to flesh all that out.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, City Manager Smith. I was just trying to get a good pulse of, I guess, the state of where we're at and also the needs. Thank you.
So as we've proposed, we've talked about the potential for the need for 3 new officers to fill out that 4-shift program. So taking an entry-level officer, it's about $125,000 a year for an officer. And we tried to factor in the cost of the vehicle and all of the other things, but that's salary, benefits, and the costs that go with them. So that's $375,000 additional cost for 3 officers. So we know that's a challenge. We're going to be in discussions over the next week or so to figure out how we can get the general fund get the general fund the ability to pay for the services that we'd like to have. So it's a challenge. So one of the things I want to talk about is just some possible sources. So there are definitely, cuts are not off the table, but just wanting you to see what, if we were to take $375,000 from any single place in the general fund, you're talking about a big impact on services. So library, you'd be taking a third, Parks and Rec, not quite a third, but still a big chunk out of programs and services that we provide. So these are just to give some thoughts. I think we can probably find some areas to make some cuts to the level of 375. That becomes more of a challenge and really starts to impact services that are available. So we've kind of been brainstorming, talking internally about what are some different ways that we could generate additional revenue to help pay for some new police officers. So one of the first ones we looked at, public safety or parks and recreation fee. It could be either. I just got some information from the League of Cities. There are a number of cities across the state who are using this fee type of a system to generate additional revenue for specific things, and it's for all of these types of things. So I saw as I was looking through the list, there's police particularly, there's a general public safety, there's parks and recreation, there's all types of these kinds of fees that people are using. So if we take a look at, we have roughly 6,000 utility accounts. $5 a month would generate about $360,000 a year. So that's that option. So the next one we looked at, a business license fee. There are cities that every business pays a fee every year to operate a business in the city. So this one is a little harder. We don't know exactly the number of businesses in the city, but we're just going to use a rough 400 as the number. Let's say we charge every business $500 a year for a business license. That's $200,000 a year. Now, we didn't dig as deeply into this as far as, we know the city of Pendleton has a business license program that they use, and it really is scaled based on the number of employees and different things like that. So it isn't just necessarily a flat fee, but this is just a way for us to get an idea of what it might look like. Another one that we looked at would be a water and sewer franchise fee. So right now, every other utility that operates in the city, electric, telecom, natural gas, all of those utilities pay a franchise fee to the city to use the rights of way. So if we took a water and sewer franchise fee, currently those two combined generate $10.25 million a year in sales. And based on that, how we would apply a franchise fee, a 4% franchise fee would generate about $410,000. Now, one of the things that you want that we look at as we talk about, different ways to generate revenue is, is it regressive? Is it hit the people who have the least ability to pay it worse, or is it progressive? If you were to just, for example, compare against each other a fee, which would be a flat fee on everybody, no matter what size, income, anything, that's much more difficult on the lower income than, say, a franchise fee where, you know, a family with 2 people, their water and sewer bill is going to be very different than the business down the street that uses a lot of water and has a higher bill. Or, you know, so from a fairness standpoint, those are some of the things that we've talked about and looked at as potential options. All right, so
Can I ask?
yeah, this is a good point to probably have some discussion.
So, you know, I know we haven't got to the budget numbers yet. So what are we looking at from a budgetary standpoint, roll up this year, as far as revenue year over year compared to our roll up cost? Is there any margin in there?
Well, that's what I was kind of alluding to earlier, where all the departments have submitted their requests. We're at this point taking our look at how those match up. And right now, the requests are much higher than what our projections on revenue are. So, you know, but I think we're going to we'll get into a lot more of a realistic scenario after this week. But there's not a lot of room. Basically, the way I see it, our growth in property tax basically pays for increases in our personnel costs. So PERS, health insurance, and wage increases. That's basically what that is covering, and it doesn't really cover it all for the general fund.
Without having to make any cuts to programs.
Right.
Because you're hearing a lot of cities right now talking about cuts to programs.
Right.
Because they're running into this compression issue, they're running into cost of living prices are going up considerably, and you know, we're capped at 3%, right?
Right.
So it's good to hear that we're in a positive position that we're not going to have to lay individuals off, but it also doesn't allow us to
Right.
grow.
It doesn't allow us the flexibility to look at increasing services.
Yeah. Mrs. Clinton?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that I understand this well. So the public safety park fee and the water sewer franchise fee, those are all going to be just added to people's individual families' homes account where it's going to go up, like that would be what, $5 a month, and then whatever the 4%.
Or 4%.
Okay, because I do know that the water sewer has already asked for, they went to Umatilla County and asked for a 2.1% increase and was granted that.
That was the garbage, that was the
Oh, the
solid
garbage,
waste,
okay.
right. And they came here as well,
Right.
council granted an
Right.
increase. Yeah.
Right, and I think that passed, didn't it?
It passed here, yes, so in the
Okay.
city.
So we'll have all that along with, if this were to pass, to add it on to people like Bill.
Yes.
So, for clarification, do you have any idea how many communities don't have a business license fee?
We
Is
have
it
not
more
done.
obvious, or is it more?
I would
often?
say percentage. I would say it's more cities do than don't. We often people come here starting a business and they're like, you don't have a fee? So I would say it's more have it than don't.
And that's, in the past, it's been a challenge for us as a city to recognize how many businesses we have in here.
Right.
And to be able to communicate with them or talk with them about programs that we may have available, or ways that we can help them, or ways that we can do a better job as a community. And so knowing who we have in our community has been a little bit of a challenge as well, because they're not all chamber members either.
Right, and they all aren't necessarily, have a brick and mortar location that we can go around and identify. There's businesses that are operating out of people's homes, things like that would be or could be affected by this. And the other thing I want to point out before this could be a combination. If the council decides, it doesn't have to be all one or all the other. It could be a combination of a smaller, let's say, public safety fee combined with a business license, or a smaller, some sort of mix and match of those to get to where we would need to be.
Councilor Burrow.
Thank you, City Manager Smith. I was actually going to comment on what you just said at the very end. I think as a council, if I'm understanding right, we're either going to have to make a cut to our budget, and you've already explained how that would affect certain departments, or we're going to have an increase, and you're explaining in which way we can do that. Thank you.
We do charge a franchise fee on water and sewer, though.
No, we do not.
Nobody, not businesses.
No, not a franchise fee, we do not.
Okay. So this would be to all water sewer users.
Right,
Residential,
businesses,
business.
residents, everybody. The larger you build, the more you're gonna pay, the smaller you build, the less you'll pay.
Yes, we had a,
Yeah, so just to clarify, this doesn't exist in any form. These would all be completely new fees rather than a fee increase on an existing fee.
That's correct. These would be new. A few years ago, we were talking about, additional sources of revenue because of the limitations of the property tax and its lack of, growth in conjunction with our economy. And so these are some of the options that we talked about then, and they are not in place currently. So
and we have talked about like a community tax on tourism. So like you see some of the transient room taxes, as far as ours go, maybe aren't as high as you see in some other communities. And so that's, I don't know if you guys looked at that as a percentage or an option.
But we do have the ability to increase that. The challenge with that is that the state currently limits the way we can spend that. All new, I've forgotten the percentage off the top of my head, but a very large percentage, at least 70%, I think, is what I'm thinking. It has to be spent on something you can tie to tourism. And so, like the coastal communities want to say, well, we have to increase our public safety, our police presence because of tourism, but they won't allow that. And so I know that's something the league has been pushing on for a number of years to try to get more flexibility in the ability to spend that tax. But that there would be some that could come to more general services. That's one that we can get some dollars to say what that would generate.
Yeah, because I don't want to say take advantage of the visitors to our community, but at the same point, when I visit other communities, they don't have any problem charging me 18%, and then that's a local tax, a city tax, and then a county tax on top of it. I mean, it seems like it adds up to almost 30% in some communities.
Yeah.
So,
It's just the limitation on what we can spend it on is the challenge.
okay. Yes.
My concern is that, at what point do we stop charging people? We're stacking more and more onto the people. We want to provide with a lot of services, but 4%. We raise the water rates 3%, and people start coming out of the woodwork about how much it's affecting them. Here we're talking about 4%, and I'm concerned with how much money we do need to tighten our belt a little bit more. Maybe we need to cut back on some of these services. We're talking about a lot of money, and again, we are putting a huge burden on our citizenry, and I can't but help it. At what point do they want us to stop? So.
And that's really the goal. I mean, the goal of this discussion is to talk about that, because it really is down to what types of things are we willing to not do, or if we want to increase the other side, what services we're able to provide.
Councilor Brown?
I like in the mayor's comment on potential tax on let's say tourism. Maybe creatively we could find a way to, obviously maybe we can't straight funnel it into public safety like you're saying, but maybe it can provide relief in other departments, and that relief could maybe make its way to public safety as well. I think at the end of the day, it is going to be a difficult decision for us as a council, but it's also important to know that these services are important, and to be able to cut certain things will be difficult. I liken a combination of the two, of having a cut and having maybe a fee, just because I think it would be disastrous in certain departments to make that big of a gash. And so I don't want to sacrifice livability for that, and I don't know if many citizens do as well. I also know that a lot of citizens don't like a tax either. So at the end of the day, for me, I feel like it's going to have to be a balance. And I understand that you and your administration have been doing your diligent work in order to find those cuts. So I like where this conversation is going so far. Obviously, as counselors, we signed up for this job, and we signed up to make difficult decisions. And so right now I'm in favor of trying to find a creative way of doing both.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody up here looks highly on raising fees for taxes. It's never an easy job. The other thing we haven't talked about either, some communities do an operations levy, right? And so that's something passed by the constituents. So you could ask them, what's important to you? Do you want library services? Do you want a healthy Parks and Rec? Do you want public safety? This is what it's going to cost us to do that. And so then you turn it out to the voters to approve it. And if it's not approved, then we look at cutting or getting creative with something else. I mean, that may be the message that comes back. It is something that you got to do on a regular basis. It's a constant education campaign, so you do have to go out and constantly earn your way all the time. But that may be another option. Is that accurate?
It is an option. I didn't really look seriously at it. I just, watching the politics or the political climate of our community, I see that being a very hard road to hoe. And so.
Well, I think if you can prove the need, this community has shown it's willing to invest in its community. I mean, look at all the beautiful schools we got around here. They've stepped up and voted themselves a higher tax rate for all the schools that we've got.
Well, but they didn't actually, I mean, they didn't vote themselves a higher tax rate. They kept the same one for longer.
They could have went down too, right? They could have went down. And so they chose to stay with that. And is the Amazon consideration, would that apply to the operations levy, or is that only the capital construction?
It would only be the capital construction to a bond issue.
And we can't do a bond issue.
We can't, I mean, just like we could do an operational levy, we can put forward a bond levy. But that, again, is only capital. It's not officers, it's not staff.
Okay. Councilor McCarthy?
I have 2 questions. First one, any one of these fees would not specifically go towards designation for, let's say, the police department, would just go into the general fund?
Well, I mean, we can label them, but I mean, essentially the way we pay for the police department is what goes into the general fund. So, I mean, we could be able to make sure that we can show that we're taking that additional and putting it there because we've raised the cost, but I mean, we could work, right, Mr. K, we could work to be able to show that?
We would be able to track the amount of money received under any fee, no question. To say where it got spent in the general fund would be a challenge. But if you say the fee is for the use of, then we can account for that as the revenue to support that department.
You have 2 questions?
Yeah, and then it's more of a comment / suggestion, but just in my career and being on the Chamber of Commerce, I would think many businesses in our community would be scared of a $500 a year fee. And so just doing some gymnastics based on, I can't remember who suggested it. If we did, and I'm just doing very rough math, did a quarter of each of these fees in some version of a combination, that's almost twice what we're looking for 3 new officers. It's about, what's 600 and something thousand dollars. So even just charging about $1 per month plus maybe $125 a year for business or some combination of that would more than make up the difference and so I think smaller increments might feel like less of a blow. So I think that's something worth exploring.
Okay.
Stanfield did this recently,
Yeah, they have a public safety fee in place right now.
and they did it on their utility bill.
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah. Do you remember how much they charge?
I think it's 7. We have.
I sent it to you. I think it's $750 or.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. $750 a month.
Because they were having a tough time with their public safety as well and keeping up with the costs and wages.
Right, trying to keep. They did it to try to increase their wages so that they didn't lose their officers to us.
Yeah. No, and I think that, that was a decision I think they got a lot of community feedback on, they were supportive of. So have we ever done any survey or outreach on this as far
Well,
as?
we're actually going to try to do that as the next phase after having this discussion. We'll do some online surveying through some of the tools we have to try to get some public feedback on some of the things we've talked about tonight.
Yep, Mr. Brown.
City Manager Smith, if we were to do any of these, would it be possible for it to come back to the council? I guess what I'm asking is if we were to assess a fee, could there be a sunset after a few years and then the council comes back and relooks at where we're at financially?
Yes, absolutely. Like, as the mayor was talking about those operational levies, you could do it in a similar fashion where in 5 years it sunsets, and to continue it, it'd have to come back for again another council action, which, taking a look at the finances again and really assessing the need for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think to Councilor Primer's point, I don't think any of us look forward to raising fees on our constituents. It is part of running a business and making hard choices that we were elected to do, but asking the constituents as well, if you are opposed to some sort of fee change, which services would you prefer to do without or less of? As part of that conversation. Because that's what it's going to come down to, right? If we don't raise the fees, then we're going to cut programs.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing you say.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Mr. McCarthy.
Just as a hypothetical, if the scenarios we suggested are either raising fees or cutting programs, is there a scenario in which we just don't hire police? I'm not suggesting that, but is there a scenario where that's also
that is another option on the table. I mean, it has just come as pretty strong interest that we do increase the number of officers.
I believe that was also significant on our Zen City survey.
Yes.
Say that again. It came as significant.
Well, it was a discussion of the goal setting. It's come up as even in kind of increasing public safety and some of the surveying we've done in a more general fashion, not, should we add 3 officers?
No fees
but-
attached to it.
Yeah.
Should we add officers? Of course.
Yes.
But you didn't say, we're going to charge
And it's gonna
$5
cost
per
you-
month.
yeah.
One bill. Okay. Gotcha. Any other questions from the council or comments?
Okay, then the last, just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about how the fire district and the city relationship is. So in '98, I believe I got the right year, am I right, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. So that was when the initial merger between the city fire department and a rural fire district, rural Hermiston Fire District happened. And then that functioned for a long time as the Hermiston Fire District. And then in 2015, they held the initial election to try to combine Stanfield and Hermiston. and that was a proposal of $2 per thousand on the property tax. That one didn't work. 2016, they proposed $1.75, and that did pass. And I think, you know, I really think that both of these were a good move from trying to be as efficient at providing services as possible. And I really do. I think that was a good way to go about it.
Mr. Smith, can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Go back that.
Uh-huh.
So you said initial merger.
Yeah.
We didn't own the fire department.
But at that point, before '98, there was a city fire department, and then there was a rural Hermiston fire district.
Right.
And it was a city department.
But so it was carved out at that time.
Right,
So
so
it
we
wasn't
were-
under the city umbrella after '98. It was outside the umbrella after '98.
Right.
Okay.
Right, so the city basically, and Scott can correct me if I don't say it right, but basically the city and the district merged into one district, independent of the city. So then it became its own special district.
Prior to that, the rural district contracted with the city for personnel. And then in about 1991, they started co-buying equipment 50-50. But up until that point, like I was a city employee when I got hired.
So when the district was initially, and this, when I say the district, I mean the current Umatilla County Fire District number 1, when it was formed, we had an approximate $200,000 compression hit, and that wasn't all due to the fire district, that was just the total of that compression, because we were already under compression. And so there was about $200,000. And then we were looking through the fire district's budgets. You know, they've received some Amazon funds because of their relationship to some of the outlying sites, you know, and so the city has received no funding directly from Amazon, but the district has, up to this point, some. So that $350,000 is over a couple of years.
So I want to make sure I understand this correctly. The initial compression hit, did that happen in '98? Or
No, in 2016,
When the
after the
law-
UCFD 1 was formed.
Okay.
Be-
Councilman Linton.
Okay, so it's really hard to, so property taxes, we're limited to $10 per thousand for general government purposes, and that includes city and fire districts are in that. So when they proposed that higher rate, we went further over that $10. And so that means through some complicated calculation that the county does, basically all of the districts lose a little bit of their rate. So our rate is $6.38, something like that, 81.
Close to the.
Okay, 6 and change. We lose some of that. We don't get the full amount because the total amount for all the districts in there is more than $10. So that we call that compression. So the tax dollars get compressed, and so people don't get the full. They don't have to pay more than $10 per thousand for general government services. So that includes things like the mosquito abatement district, the county, those types of things. And then there's a $5 schools limitation as well, but that's separate from our limitations.
Yeah.
So $200,000, does all of that go to the fire department? No?
No, so,
It goes.
well, I mean, some of that was already in place. So all of the districts were already above the $10. But when they went to $1.75, that was higher than what they were before, so that increased the compression. So I would say about a third of that was related to the district directly. But it's hard to say because it's not a straightforward calculation. It gets calculated on every property separately, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, so I want to clarify something too. There are some districts that can change their rates. The city, and I believe the county, can't.
That's correct.
So-
And the only reason they could change their rate is because they went and formed a new district.
Right. So then they were able to change the rate at which they were charging within that.
So with the Amazon funds, are you saying that they're getting $350,000 a year from Amazon?
No, that's in at least two budgets. We didn't look at a whole bunch of budgets in the past. We looked at 3 or 4. But one year, I think they got 160,000, and then another year they got about 200,000. And then it looks like and I think it's related to probably PDX 80.
It's the Westland side.
Yeah, the Westland,
Yeah, Westland.
it's out in the county, and so they're getting some funding through that because it's already built and functioning.
Okay. So does Hermiston contribute any extra money to the fire department?
No.
No, we do not. I would like to ask Chief Stanton a question. Am I able to?
It's supposed to be a conversation between us,
Okay.
but you can probably ask Byron.
All right, do you know how much money the fire department receives a year for its budget?
Yeah, their budget's about $10 million, 10 and a half. That's what we saw.
Okay. And none of that comes from Hermiston?
Yes,
Some of it does come from Hermiston?
yes.
Okay.
And I'll hit that in my next.
Not from the city.
Not from the
We
city.
don't give it, but as taxpayers.
So the taxpayers that live in the city pay fire district taxes as well. And our read of it is about 45% of their revenue come from Hermiston City taxpayers. Now, the fire district provided me some information, I appreciate it. We tried to take a look at call volumes. I know they looked at it, and we probably looked at it different. We didn't talk to each other about it. So there's an estimate of 50% to 80% of their calls are related to Hermiston. You know, we looked at maybe the calls that are related to the hospital being a little bit different because that's a regional facility. Is that all related to just Hermiston people? You know, so it's somewhere in the middle there. If you could really tie it to just Hermiston residents or whatever. But, you know, the hospital is located in Hermiston, so that you can make the argument there. But anyway, we were just trying to take a look at it. We're not trying to say whether, you know, we're not trying to say anything. We think they do a great job. And I'm just trying to answer the question that, you know, was raised, that the city pay them money? No, we don't. But the people who live in the city pay taxes to them just like just like they pay to the city, so. And that's all I had.
Any other council questions? Jackie, I think you had the most questions about this topic. Did you have any further clarification questions that you had?
Well, it looks like to me with the call volumes that Hermiston is receiving the highest call volumes, and it covers all of Umatilla County. I would like to know, is there a shortage of staff with the fire department? Are they fully staffed or not?
But I think, you know, they have regular board meetings and it's open to the public. And so just like you attended our city council meetings when you first came, you could often go to their board meetings and ask all those questions too. You know, the challenge we have as taxing districts, we have to use those dollars that we get for the purposes that they were designed for, right? Just like the school district has their taxing district. We don't ask them to pay us for any services we're providing unless it's, you know, a service that they've requested and we're reimbursing. And we don't give them any additional money because they provide a service within the community. They have a budget they operate in, the city has a budget it operates in, the fire district has a budget it operates in. And so it does sometimes get a little bit competition-ish, I would say, because we are in that compression zone. So anytime there's a tax change, it can impact everybody else inside that $10. So I'm sure the mosquito district lost something, and the county lost something, and library district lost something, and I think there's like 10 taxing agencies underneath that district.
Cemetery district.
Cemetery district, yeah, there's
Okay.
like a bunch of taxing agencies underneath that $10. And we all have to, because we're limited by Measure 5 and 50, work within that, and we can't change it until there's some sort of legislative change.
Right.
And that's for property tax?
That's property tax, yeah.
And, like I said, I think we work well with the fire district. We're working on a joint project to try to make improvements to the public safety center. I put in my memo that we were notified that we received some grant funding.
Yeah.
And they were really instrumental in helping us even know about that funding. And so, I hope I didn't say anything that was wrong. But, I think we work well together, and so I'm just trying to answer those questions forward and make sure, to show that, we're not holding back our budget from them. We're just, we do what we do, and they do what they do, and we try to work together the best we can.
Okay, well, because we do have the police department here represented, but we don't have anyone with the fire department ever here represented, so I really don't have any information.
Yeah,
that's,
I would encourage you to
given
attend
about,
their board meetings and ask all those questions. Those are great questions.
Okay.
Any other, yeah, Mr. Brewer?
It's just more of a comment. At the end of the day, kind of like we were saying, Mayor, these are the effects of Measure 5 and 50. And as counselors, especially new counselors, it's really, it's a lot to take in. Even in year 5 right now, it's still very difficult to take in. Even the experts that do this find it hard to be able to address this issue. And at the end of the day, this is just what we're going to have to live. This is what we're living with right now until there is major legislative change, constitutional change, if I'm not mistaken. So until then, it is going to be difficult. But as partners, we can do the best that we can to support each other. But there's very little things that we can do until those things are changed.
Any other comments? Mr. Schmidt?
That's it.
Okay, then we will take a quick recess before we start the regular city meeting at 7 o'clock. All right, we're going to call the meeting for the City Council for April 10th, 2023 to order with a declaration of a quorum. We're going to excuse Councilor Myers and Councilor Peterson this evening. If you're just now joining us, the City Council and City Manager had a work session this evening to kind of talk through some upcoming budget issues and some challenges that we're confronting. It's an opportunity for the Council to dive deeper into issues that we're facing and the challenges that we're trying to address and have a longer form conversation. So please join me in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome to all the audience members this evening. Mr. Smith, any changes to the agenda?
No, thank you.
We're at our first opportunity for citizen input on non-agenda items. So if there are items that aren't on tonight's agenda that you would like to speak to, please come up to the microphone up front, introduce yourself by name and address, direct your comments to me, and try and limit them to less than 5 minutes. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
My name is Charlie Klupney. I live at 1225 Northwest Sheeran Lane, on the outskirts of Hermiston. I just wanted to speak publicly to both the City Council and staff. I am a pretty involved volunteer with Funland Playground, and I wanted to make you aware of what's going on with the committee through the Hermiston Lions Club right now. I happen to be the spearheader to that. We are working on a project to bring a tactile map to Funland Community Playground. When I was on the mayor's committee to plan the third build of the playground, I had the honor of being able to help put that together. Spent a lot of hours doing that. And while we were planning it, I said, you know, we're addressing orthopedic issues with this playground, and we're addressing sensory issues with this playground, but what about low vision blind? And people looked and go, oh. So when Larry, the former director, retired, Brandon took over, and now I'm working with Brandon, with our committee. And I wanted to let the City Council and staff know that we have a plan. And we formulated that plan a couple of weeks ago. With Portland Community College, they have a department there called Accessibility Wayfinding. And they basically work with students to make their campuses accessible. And one of these areas was low vision blind. And they helped us by consulting with us, and we have developed a tactile map which has international symbols on it that people with low vision and blind have, the standard, as well as Braille. Currently, this map will be 3 foot by 2 foot, and in addition to that, we are looking at a local firm to make our kiosk, which will blend in with the playground, as well as one of the committee members that was on said, well, what about having a visual map as well? So those 3 things have been incorporated together, and we have a plan to move forward. To let you know, the Lions have committed $5,000 to this, as well as going out in the community and seeing what other people, what other firms, what other companies, organizations will be willing to get into and to have this project completed. I am going to take a step out here, and Brandon is over there, and he's going to hear me, and that is I believe this project is going to be about $20,000 to $25,000. Just the map alone, 3 feet by 2 feet. $6,500. Okay. But it's gonna last a long time, and it's gonna be worth it. But we will have an inclusive playground. And it might even be a first step for some other considerations, for some other recreational opportunities for people with low vision blindness. As well as Brandon and the people at Portland Community College have been doing, or at least thinking about, some type of adjustments to make to the Funland and Hermiston Recreation Department's website, which goes into detail. And I have to let you know that my sister came last week, and she's a brailleist in Washington, and she's a contractor. And she brought her grandchildren. They were over there every day. And I told her about our plan, and she's just really excited about what we're doing here. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope to be able to be inviting you to the ribbon cutting for this, because it's a big deal. The last thing I wanted to say is the Tri-City Herald recently had an article in there about being fourth most inclusive program in the United States, the playground. Well, they don't know about us, and we're going to let them know when we get done. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, Charlie has been a true champion of Funland Park. Him and his wife, for the first two playgrounds, played a large part in the development of our wooden structures, and now the hopefully more permanent plastic and metal structures have played a part in that one as well. And so we appreciate all you've done, Charlie, and continuing to do for the Funland Park. And I, for one, am super supportive of the low vision. Kind of got a personal connection to that one. And so, I've been engaged in the conversation and the process, but it wouldn't have moved without Charlie's leadership. So appreciate you and everything you've done on that. It's going to be another wonderful addition to that park. And everybody I bring to town, I had a friend in town today from Fossil. I took her by Funland Park and showed her the park, and then they're just always amazed. So they want to bring their kids and grandkids and make this a destination stop on their way from Portland to Boise or whatever, and let their kids out and play and run. So hopefully they stop at McDonald's or Safeway or Starbucks, and they also leave some money in the coffers around the town too. So, and we appreciate everything there. Any other comments this evening, public? Yeah, come on.
My name is David Hansen. I live at 1737 West Hallelujah Street here in Hermiston. I'm also a member of the Budget Committee for the city. I would just like to thank the staff and the council for that presentation we had. It was very, very enlightening. I'd also like to let you know that I have volunteered for the fire district to help them in grant funding. And I can assure you that the city of Hermiston will be involved as much as I can in all the grants I'm trying to seek for the fire district. We have to work together, as you said, and it is my goal to make sure that if there's any opportunity in which we can fund together, it will happen. So I just want to let you know that. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, David. Appreciate your volunteerism on the Budget Committee as well as support the fire district. I couldn't agree with you more. We need to work together for the overall public safety of our community and our county, and our west end of Umatilla County. Super excited about the grant I heard about today for the fire district, $2.1 million in seismic upgrades. That'll help us with the remodel of the public 2.5. As we're moving forward in the remodel of the Public Safety Center. So that'll go a long ways to helping us get there. Any other public comments? Yes, come on.
Jennifer Roberts. I live at 1709 Northeast 6th Place. So I just wanted to make a quick statement about the PATH project. It was my understanding from back at the open forum at the community center when the city council from Hermiston and Umatilla and the county commissioners were all together, that there was going to be an oversight committee that would include possibly elected officials or members of the public or a combination of both. And when I attended the February 27th city council meeting here, and city manager from Umatilla, David Stockdale, came and spoke about the project, it was clear that they've already started having those meetings. So I followed up with him afterwards in an email asking who was on the committee and making those decisions. And he said that at this point, it's city managers from the different cities, as well as one county commissioner, and then people from the project, and that's it. And so I just was wondering if at some point there was going to be something done to address having either elected officials as part of it or community members, as well as he said that the meetings are held, they're open to the public, but they're held at 9 a.m. on a Thursday morning, which if you're wanting more of the general public involved, I don't think is probably the best time to have that. So, thank you.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. That was a question I asked as well. And so I think as that committee moves forward, it has been recommended that we kind of expand that or grow that. So, Mr. Smith, I don't know where that committee's at as far as its structure. If it's formalized, do you have a formalized, other than the IGA that kind of bonds us together, is there a formalization to the committee structure at this point?
We're just using the IGA, the terms that are in there.
Okay. Is that a conversation that you guys have had as far as?
We've been focused on really operational, trying to get things up and built and stuff, so we haven't had an opportunity to do that. We plan to be in front of all the city councils over the next month with a strategic plan, and so some of those types of things. And I think once some of those the bigger operational items, we can have a conversation about how the board can be structured.
And I know the organization that we contracted with, Stepping Stones, they also have an oversight board, is that right?
Right, so they're a nonprofit that has a board.
So I don't know where the application is or how you could get inserted into that conversation, but those meetings are also public. So you could attend those as well. First.
Yeah, I don't remember what they are. First Thursday or first Tuesday.
I could get you that information if you want that. It's on my calendar. I attend. I just don't remember which one it is. Any other public comments this evening?
Karen Kramer, 1085 West Madrona. I just wanted to let the council know that this week is Nationally Recognized Telecommunicators Week. So the dispatch center is doing a number of things, including some articles, Facebook. I'm hoping to have the paper come and do a couple of interviews, including with Lieutenant Roberts and his daughter, who is now a telecommunicator, because a couple years ago I may have trained Josh when he was 18, something like that. Anyway, so we're going to kind of do a couple things like that. We've got a lot of fun activities planned, but I just wanted to let you guys know that we've got National Recognition this week, so thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure if we hadn't heard from the other half of the family, we would have heard from the other half of the family tonight. He's always very good about recognizing telecommunication groups.
Weird.
Any other public comment? All right, moving on. We have a proclamation this evening, and I'm going to read that for you. Declaring April as Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month. Whereas Parkinson's disease is a chronic progressive neurological disease and is the second most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States, that is estimated to affect approximately 1 million people in the United States and rise to 1.2 million by 2030. Whereas Parkinson's disease is the 14th leading cause of death in the United States according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Whereas it is estimated that the economic burden of Parkinson's disease is at least $52 billion annually, including direct and indirect costs, including treatment, Social Security payments, lost income to patients and family members. Whereas research suggests The cause of Parkinson's disease is a combination of genetic and environmental factors, but the exact cause and progression of the disease is still unknown, and there is no objective test or biomarker for Parkinson's disease, and there is no cure or drug to slow or halt the progression of the disease. Whereas volunteers, researchers, caregivers, and medical professionals are working to improve the quality of life of persons living with Parkinson's disease and their families. Whereas increased research, education, and community support services, such as those provided by the Parkinson's Foundation and other organizations, are needed to find more effective treatments and to provide access to quality care to those living with the disease today. Now therefore, I, Dr. Dave Drossman, Mayor of Hermiston, Oregon, do hereby proclaim and acknowledge the month of April as Parkinson's Awareness Month. All right, we're going to move on to presentations from Hermiston School District. I see Mr. Bacon out there. Welcome, Mr. Bacon.
Good evening. Busy night at the school board meeting tonight. A lot of recognitions going on, so it's going to be fun to go through that list. We'll try and get through it as quick as possible because it was quite a crew, standing room only. Probably all gone now, but it's quick. The last two meetings that I've attended, we've had some wonderful questions that have been presented in my direction. And one of the challenges, as in my role, is I'm not involved with the day-to-day operations in each building. And so it becomes difficult to know specific questions that are going on in a specific building. General district-wide overviews, hopefully I can respond to those. But I don't want to diminish or take away the importance of the questions that have been asked. And so what I've done is I've created a little 3x5 card that has all of the contacts for each of the buildings across the school district. So should a question come up about a day-to-day operation or student behavior or something that's going on at lunchtime with a student in a business, this is a great way to be able to reach out and connect with that building principal to the process. So I put all of these on here. It's got the email, it's got their email address, and it has the phone number to make contact there. So I leave this, and if you need more, if you want to pass them around, if people are asking questions, how do we get in contact? I'll speak on behalf of the principals. They're excited to hear questions and respond to those, and we're happy to support that. But in the progression, should things not be answered, not necessarily rather it's agreed upon or disagreed upon, but if it's not, you're not satisfied with the information that's being provided, that next step becomes a director. And they are on the back side of this document also on who to contact and what department they are responsible for. Worst case scenario, should that not satisfy the question or the response, then that next step would be to Dr. Mooney or myself. And again, that contact information is on there as well. So we want to make sure that everybody has access to the fastest route to gather that information possible. So if I could leave this here, and I will, Heather will make sure we get it. Awesome. Okay, thanks. Well, jumping into enrollment, we are at 5,401 students as of March 31st, which is a decrease of 13 from last month and decrease of 18 students from a year ago. So we're closing that gap. It's not as fast as we would all like, but we are progressing, heading in the right direction with getting our student enrollments up. The neat part, again, with the addition of Loma Vista, our elementary numbers are starting to increase, and with that, we are still, our highest class is 24 students per grade level, and that's at our 5th grade level. Everybody else is under 24, and our primary grades, which is K through 2, are under 20 students per classroom, so that's great student-to-teacher ratios there. As far as what's coming up, informational May 12th is going to be our next non-student day, but it'll be a staff and service day. And the last day for students is going to be June 14th with staff on the 15th. So we're jumping into winding down the school year. State assessments are taking place right now. here in May, or in April and May. And those state assessments are for English, language arts, and math, and those are going to be for grades 3 through 8 and the junior class. Science is also going to be kicking off, and that's for grades 5, 8, and 11. So kinder registration is coming up next week. You're going to see, hopefully you've seen information coming out, but Tuesday, April 18th, Wednesday, April 19th, and then the following week, April 25th and 26th, we'll be having kinder registration at the district office to help promote and provide access. And those times availability will be from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at night. So we'll have staff on there to help get kinders all registered and ready to go. Also, at the last board meeting, took action on approving, accepting the calendar for the upcoming 23-24 school year. And with that, we're excited to say that the start date for teachers is going to be August 21st, and students will be August 28th. So, which will end up wrapping up that school year. Students will finish up on the 11th of June, and the teachers that following day. So that's out there. Construction is moving along at the annex. Siding's going up, so if you drive by there, you can definitely see the improvement or the change as it's happening now. So they're moved out to the outside of it, getting that finished up. Inside's working along pretty well. Highland Hills is next up on the docket, so they're going to be working on some of the playground restructuring that'll be taking place there, which is going to impact pickup and drop off significantly at Highland Hills. So I'm sure we're all really excited about the challenges that that's going to bring. So we're working on how we funnel traffic in and out of the drop off lines as smoothly as possible. Okay, and really the big exciting part tonight was being able to recognize a bunch of students, specifically our FCCLA members. They went, March was a huge month for everybody, so they attended the Oregon State Leadership Conference in Portland. Out of that, 8 members qualified to compete at the National Leadership Conference. And it's called the STAR events, which is students taking action with recognition. So, and they compete in different categories. So we've got strong representation there. Our high school senior, Kylie Temple, was elected to the 2023-2024 Oregon FFA State Vice Presidency, which is really cool. She's graduating this year, and then she'll next year be touring around representing Oregon as vice president in Hermiston, which is a nice thing to get out and about across the state. The FFA Parliamentary Procedure and Conduct Chapter Meeting teams placed first in state, which means they will also be competing at the National FFA Convention next year. Our most recently, Stardust Dance Team placed first in hip hop and show categories and second in dance. What's really cool about this is the Stardust has taken first place at the WIA State Championships 2 years in a row, and then now for the 3rd time since moving into the WIA. So strong performances and competing statewide there with our Stardust Dance Team. And tonight, members from the Umatilla County Fair Board was at the board meeting and recognized Jeff Kelso, our IT director, for his partnership and working with the fair and being able to live stream auctions and events. And they talked about the expansion that they plan on doing this upcoming year, and really cool. So again, that partnership with county and the city and the school district is strong, and we're very fortunate to have it. So thanks to everybody, and it was cool to recognize Jeff tonight. Alex Boyer, who is a speaker, came a couple weeks ago and talked with all the secondary schools and provided presentations, and he really spoke about the importance of redefining yourself and knowing your importance and your value, and making sure that everybody understands what it is that you are at 10. And so it was just an exciting, energetic experience for our middle school kids, who take it in all sorts of different ways. But it was nice to visit with them afterwards. And that really is just a little bit of what's going on in the Hermiston School District.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. The construction at the high school, the annex that's not set to open up this year, is that right?
Correct. It'll open in the fall, in this coming fall.
But it's getting close.
It is, yeah. Some of the rooms, there are different rates or different levels, but they've got cabinets up in some rooms. They're working on the flooring, getting it polished up and finished, but it's moving right along.
Any kids giving pushback about that blue-green color you had on the outside?
Not in my world, but
I was
definitely
just
has
disappointed to see the blue going away. I thought we were gonna do the whole town that way.
They kept asking the city if we were going to build green.
help out on that, yeah.
And then the other question I had for you was a multi-use heating facility. Is that progressing? What's the status of that?
And I haven't been able to get a proper response yet for that, so I'll keep working on that.
Okay. Other questions from the council? All right. Go, Mr. Brewer.
I could probably answer a little bit of that. I know that there's still kind of a fundraising effort going on between the programs, because ultimately it's going to help baseball, softball, a lot of different sports, but I don't know where we're at that point. I know that the effort is underway still.
Thank you.
Anything else, Councilman? Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Have a good evening. You too. All right. Val Hoxie from our Hermiston Chamber of Commerce. Welcome.
Good evening. We have a lot going on at the chamber. I tried to make sense of this today. My head is spinning from all the stuff going on. We have about 348 members currently, and we have a steady interest of about 2 a month, it seems. On a good month, we have 4 to 6, so that's on the uptick. I love seeing that. We're excited to move forward with the Adopt Your Street. We'll talk about that a little more tonight. We're really looking forward to that. It seems to be really popular. A lot of interest in that from businesses. It's kind of a model of adopt your road or adopt a road, but in the county or in the city area. We have a spring luncheon coming up. That's going to be May 25th. You can find all these dates and times on our website and on Hermiston Live as well. That is going to be talking about membership, just a networking opportunity, and hopefully launch Adopt Your Street in there and give all the details. And so looking forward to folks joining on that. We're going to have a second luncheon with Greg Smith. I talked to him the other day, trying to reel him in on a date, but as we all know, that's a little bit of a struggle right now for him. But that's a popular one, well-attended. People always want to know what's happened in legislation, and who better to tell us than Greg Smith. So look forward to that. July Summer Mixer is starting to take shape. We showcase the Fair and Rodeo. We have that at Bennett Gardens in July. We used to do that as a luncheon, but now we moved that to an evening event where we have the board of both of those events come talk and just share information, who's going to be there, and just have a fun evening. We're working towards a new leadership program just with hopes of starting in spring 2024, partnering with the city, looking forward to what that looks like. I'm really excited about that. I think that's a need. I hear a lot of interest. But that's going to be reshaped from what it looked like before. Ribbon cuttings as a lion and the director of chamber. I look forward to the one that Charlie was talking about earlier, of course. But we do have one coming up on April 27th at Eastern Oregon Computers. Again, you'll find that on the calendar, and an open house at Northeast Beef Express. If you aren't familiar with the calendar, I suggest you take a peek at that. It has been really popular, and we work really well with EOTech and the city Parks and Rec. Almost everything happening in the community you can find there. I think that's about it. I'm sure there's a lot going on that I forgot, but.
Remind us of the website.
It's hermistonlive.com. You can also find it on Parks and Rec. You can find it on the Chamber website and EOTech website. Really accessible. And not many people know, but if you go to it, if you scroll down to the bottom, you can link it to your phone, and then when you go to your calendar, events all throughout Hermiston will just be on your calendar. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Anything from the council? Yeah, Council Brewer.
I'm excited to hear about the ongoing recruitment and ongoing businesses joining the chamber. I know the Latino Business Network is no longer, I believe, in place, but how is your effort going with attracting and bringing in Latino businesses?
That's strong. I would say it is very strong, but we also are getting ready for board elections that come every year, and we have really looked hard at making that really inclusive. So look forward to that in your email, and you can always help. But I'd say that's very strong. And it's a priority of ours, of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have you been to the Hispanic Advisory Committee meeting?
I have not.
You might go there and just kind of introduce yourself and tell them about this opportunity for people to apply, and that may be a good way to get the word out.
That's a terrific idea. Yep.
Any other? Yes, David?
You mentioned board elections. I'm just curious if there is still time for anyone interested, especially based on the comments we've just had, to be nominated for a position on the board.
Yes, there is. We haven't sent that out to the members yet. I would like to get it out next week, but if there are people interested, I keep pushing it off as long as I can. May is in our bylaws. We have to have that wrapped up. So within the next week or two, that'll be going out to the members for the election in that email. And if anybody is interested in getting the chamber email, let me know. I'll send you the link to sign up for that if you're not already getting it. And it's full of that information as well.
When's the next Hispanic Advisory?
We're set every other, I should say, the third Monday of the month, but we're meeting every every 2 months. So,
That's on the city website as well, correct?
yes.
Yeah, I'll look for that. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Val.
Thank you.
All right, now moving on to consent agenda. There are items A through C. Do we need to pull into those, council? Seeing none. Any public comments on consent agenda items A, B, or C? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, C as presented?
So moved. Second.
And moved by Councilor Kramer, second by Councilor Linton, that we approve consent agenda items A, B, and C. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously, 6-0. Ordinance number 2346, amending Title 9 of the Hermiston Municipal Code. Mr. Smith?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This discussion started last meeting and we held it over to get a few more members of the council here to talk about this. And what I want to just kind of highlight is, there's two chapters. One is adjusting Chapter 92, which is just to clarify that we can do maintenance and things on the streets and in parking lots, sometimes in the odd hours when we might need to be able to do that. That was just, I think, not clear in our ordinance in the past, and so we wanted to clarify that. The other is a new chapter and really is the major focus of this ordinance. And really there's two parts, and the most time in this chapter addition that we're putting forward is really setting up a process, trying to make it fair, trying to make it clear that the way we would want people to conduct themselves, but also if there's a problem, a process that we go through so that we're not treating people unfairly or arbitrarily, trying to set up some rules in that way. So the first, there is a set of rules, and that's one portion of it, but the main part is kind of the process that people would go through. So one of the items, I was listening to the meeting last time, was would we post these? What would that look like? So we gave an example, trying to take it a little bit out of the lawyerese that an ordinance is written in and put it into something, but then you've got 19 or so rules and putting it on one sheet of paper. Anyway, so we gave that the first shot at doing that. And so the one that, sometimes, the one that we put first is kind of a catch-all. If it's against the law anywhere, you're not allowed to do it on city property. And so that kind of sometimes catches some of the other things that might be, we might want to call out more specifically, but we're saying anything that's against the law, you don't do in a city building. And then the rest of the rules really are fairly basic. Sorry about that. But we did get one comment about the language related to smoking, and whether we should, we went back and looked at that in the ordinance itself, and I think there's a little bit of, you could read it to where it's saying basically you can't carry anything around with you, like a vape pen or whatever, but the intent that we had was that you can't have, like, you might not actively be puffing on something, but you can't just carry around a lighted smoking instrument, so a cigarette, whatever. And so that's what we were shooting for. So if we need to kind of modify that, we can look at doing that. I think that was, is that number 6? Number 6. Yeah, number 6. So that's what it meant, was we weren't trying to say you couldn't just carry around that, because that's not what we were shooting for. So
as sent that comment, yeah, where it came from was, I know, and I understand trying to with deference to or a city attorney, de-legal ease it, but the thing said, the initial paper said you couldn't carry one, period.
Right.
And that's how it, and so, we didn't say you couldn't carry cigarettes, you couldn't, and so, and once again, I'm going to go back to something I constantly thrown out there is that I think that on any and all signs that we put up that have rules, that we put the QR code on there that would take you to the exact statement or the exact ordinance on there, so that if somebody has any questions about any of the rules, you can go straight to the ordinance and say, this is what's on there.
That's great. And we did want to try to always have a little, reference back to the ordinance, because we're not going to try to put the full paragraph on each thing. So that's kind of just, I think the rules are fairly straightforward. The process that we set up, I wanted to maybe go in a little bit more detail. And as far as if someone's doing something that they're not supposed to do, they're breaking one of the rules, the way it's set up is any staff member can be designated to say, you need to leave. But that's just basically for that day, for that situation. And if they come back the next day and they follow the rules, that's fine. But if there's a history, or they get belligerent and they don't want to listen, or they keep violating hate, then we have a process set up to where they can be excluded for a set amount of time. So we're going to exclude you from coming into City Hall or from the library for 30 days. And then we have a form set up where, it's clear, and it also lays out, well, if you want to appeal this decision, this is what you can do, and where to go and how to take care of that. So that's the intention of the ordinance. And there was some discussion last time also about, are other cities doing this? Yeah, this is kind of a conglomeration of a number of cities' ordinances that we kind of brought together and tried to pick out what we thought would fit best with us, but we're absolutely open to, feedback. If we need to tweak things, make changes, that's not a problem. So that's kind of our intent. We've just had a lot more challenges with this, people following the rules, people distracting staff while they're trying to do their job, things like that. So we felt we needed some more clear authority to exclude them from the building, and the process to go through, and so forth. So that's why we brought that forward to you, and would be happy to have any discussion or get any feedback, and then we can go from there.
I didn't get to participate in the conversation last time, so I had some questions that may have been answered, but city property, the definition excludes city parks. Why was that one excluded?
So in there are rules in parks section of the code already specific to parks.
In line with this?
Yes.
Okay.
And go more specific to have outdoor spaces and things like that, where it might be something slightly different than talking about being inside a building or near, in near a building.
Does this also address the upcoming law that comes into effect, I think in July, regarding homelessness individuals in our community spaces? I think by July 1st, we have to have some sort of policy in place to address that.
That's not so much should. Is that working? How about that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. It should. There's still a lot of working that's going on with I think the league is still doing work. The Oregon City Attorneys Association is still kind of putting together information related to that. And really what the law was asking is that we make sure that all of our ordinances are in line with some of those bills that were passed in Oregon, and also the Supreme Court cases that have been ruled on related to homelessness. And so this, other than one comment that's related to a little bit about camping, does fall in line. And even with the camping, the city is allowed to have time, place, and manner restrictions related to what camping is, the use of the sidewalks, and that sort of thing. And so this does fall under those parameters.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Burke?
And I guess more of a question. I assume that this is coming up because there's been problems in the past. Can you give me some examples of what's happened in the past?
One in particular, a gentleman just likes to stand the front counter and talk to staff, and they're trying to do their job. They're asking him to leave, and he just continues to keep coming back and talking to him. That's a pretty low key one. We've had a little bit more. So the library in the past has had its own rules, but there's nothing in the city code that kind of backs those up, and so that's why we're including them in this definition of city property. But they've had problems where people go in there and they're not supposed to eat, and so they'll be getting out their food, and they don't want to listen to staff, ask them to not do that, and some of those situations have kind of driven this. We've also, there's been more things going on outside the building recently, but those have been the ones inside that we've had issues with.
Thank you. And it's unfortunate that there's been that already, and it's the people's house that shouldn't be tarnished in any way, shape, or form, and our staff shouldn't be disrespected like that either. So, thank you.
Councilor Linton?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment. One morning I was coming downstairs from talking to Lily about something, and there was a group of homeless people that came in there. And being a volunteer at the shelter when I used to be up here, some of them, their mental capacity is not completely there. And I would suggest that if you do have to talk with someone, that there be a male around, because sometimes some of them, the majority was pretty nice, but there were some of them that don't like authority of any kind, no matter how polite you say anything to. I have one individual, because I was going by the rules of the time he had to leave, he was upset and he slammed the door. Then the next night the next week I think it was, I was a volunteer, and he let me know that he had been to prison for murder. It didn't scare me, but that was his intent too. I didn't tell anyone what was said, because the majority of us that are volunteers are females. And so I didn't want to scare the women away. I still went to volunteer. It didn't scare me. But I just wanted to say that, because We also have homeless people that are camping out at the First United Methodist Church, but the pastor doesn't mind that, you know, to have a place to sleep. But I don't think the city property should be where people are sleeping. I don't know if it's okay for them to come in here in the morning and sit to warm up, I understand. But that can scare a few people if they're coming in, and it might even scare some of the people here when you're not, you know, you don't know what they may do or where their mental capacity is, because a lot of our homeless people do have problems. Thank you.
Councilor Brown?
I just want to say,
Yes.
I'm glad for the rules.
Question. The one pager, the one that has the 1 through 18, is that something that perhaps could be also translated in Spanish?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. We just wanted to put something together quickly so that we could visualize how we would try to post it.
Councilor McCarthy?
So I'm just curious what the, because I see the list of rules, I'm just curious what the practice or protocol would be for enforcement where we can't get city staff or an administrator to talk someone down off of stop breaking that rule. What's the process?
Then we would contact the police department to help us. And they've been supportive of, you know, how we put together these rules and so forth. So.
Perfect. Others? Yeah, Councilor Burns?
So, kind of following along with what Mr. McCarthy said. So would law enforcement, you know, I mean, obviously I know Jason's guys got a lot more better things to be doing, but, you know, in their day-to-day, if, you know, if they're having an issue with somebody, are they authorized under those circumstances as well?
Yes.
They have the ability to act as the city employee who can say,
yes.
okay,
Yes.
cool, thank you.
And, you know, the plan that we would have with any, you know, any exclusionary letter would be delivered by a law enforcement officer. It would not be, that's when it's over, you know, if you're going to be kicked out of the building for multiple days, that would be delivered by a law enforcement officer, and that's, Jason's been comfortable with that.
That brings up another thing, because I deal with this one specifically. EOTech as a facility. I know that under certain circumstances that you have people that engage in activities that they shouldn't, you know, and in the past I know that people have been excluded from the facility. Would that translate to the people that are in charge of it at that time, you know, like a renter?
Sure. Well,
Such
we
as like
always
a
have someone there, you know, even if it's community center or EOTech, someone there represents the city, and they would be the one that would, you know, enact any of those kind of, you know, either if that's through the security that's there or whoever, they would be the one that says, yeah, this person needs to leave. Yeah.
So if you're having to give a written exclusion letter, how do you locate some of these individuals?
And that is something we talked about. Generally, we know them by, you know, we recognize them, we know them by face, but I mean, I think that would be, we would just have to have them come or see them around before it would be delivered, because, I mean, most of them aren't gonna have an address, right? I mean, also, potentially they could just show up to wherever the, you know, if they're going to the sleep center, you know, they're picking up and dropping off at certain hours, they could potentially come and try to catch them when they're coming in and that. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult thing, I don't know, but we just felt like it needed to be in writing, it had to have some of that formality for it to be longer than, you know, just a day kind of a thing.
Sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would just like to ask that you do like a QR code for other languages as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
How does that work? What are our legal requirements for language notification? Is that based on population percentages and?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
Working through, say, like the circuit courts, when I was working within that realm, most everything was in English. There were forms and things that were provided generally as a courtesy, but everything else was in English. So I haven't seen that or seen any requirements. I could definitely take a look to see.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't have it exactly, but I would say, I don't think there's a legal requirement. I think what we're doing would be providing information in the best way that we can to the people that we're working with.
Because I think there's translation services that are available, so if it did need to be translated to a
Right, I mean, I think for some of those other languages, we would look at, whether that's Google Translate or some other way to send somebody to be able to do that. But we could, because we know a large percentage do speak Spanish, we can provide it in that language up front, and then others we can make available through other ways, of electronic or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
I know we do that. The court has a service that we're able to call into and get translation into different languages, so that's available as well. Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr.
Following on that, I'd be interested in any input regarding those who aren't able to read, hearing it in either English or Spanish as an option, or even just, if we've got a Spanish translation, just some on-screen reader service or something, like Siri might read a message or something. That kind of idea, seeing about that kind of accessibility. What are the options there?
We'll explore options.
Anything else, Council? Any public comment on ordinance 2346? Okay, Mayor requests first reading of the ordinance be read by title only and calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tubby?
First reading, ordinance number 2346, an ordinance amending Title 9 of the Hermiston Municipal Code by amending Chapter 92 entitled Nuisances and by adding Chapter 96 entitled Rules of Conduct for City Property.
Mayor requests that the ordinance be put on for final adoption at this meeting, that the second reading be by title only and calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tucker?
Second reading of ordinance number 2346 by title only, an ordinance amending Title 9 of the Hermiston Municipal Code by amending Chapter 92 entitled Nuisances and by adding Chapter 96 entitled Rules of Conduct for City Property.
Can I get a motion that ordinance number 2346 be adopted and become effective 30 days after adoption by the City Council?
So moved.
Second. Then moved by Councilor Linton, second by Councilor Primer, that we adopt ordinance number 2346 and it become effective 30 days after adoption. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously, 6-0. Resolution number 2265, first amendment to the intergovernment agreement with the City of Umatilla for ongoing information technology services. Mr. Smith,
Yes.
you can't get enough of us, huh?
That's right. So in June of last year, we entered into our original agreement with the City of Umatilla for IT services. And just, I thought, for some good information, 446 tickets, that means requests, things that they've asked us to do, and about over 800 hours working for the City of Umatilla during that time. So, I think that is the greatest compliment, or that they're asking us for more hours because things are going well. And that's the feedback I've received from both the city manager there, but also, that our staff is hearing from other staff members in Umatilla. And this is an item we're going to talk about in more detail when we come to the budget committee, particularly because we've had a large uptick in requests for more services, for more agencies. And so, but this was something we knew was coming. The City of Umatilla communicated to us, and so we're comfortable that our current staffing, without any changes, we can fulfill the proposed changes in this agreement. But we will be coming as part of the budget discussion about how we could handle the other requests for increases that are coming. So what Umatilla is requesting is that starting April 1st, and that this would be retroactive to that date, they would go up from 24 to 32 hours a week, and then on September 1st go to a full 40 hours a week. And so they've just, there's just such a backlog of things that haven't been done, and they're growing, they're adding staff, those kinds of things. So they're really interested in continuing to increase, and this will continue to cover our costs and help us kind of continue forward with our IT department. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
So I hear this comment a lot every time I ask you about, do we have the capacity? You said, in our current arrangement, yes, we keep adding on to it, we keep adding on to it. So I'm worried that we're going to get past this capacity ability. We went from 24 hours to 40 hours, that's half-time to full-time. It seems like, at least another half-time staff member, right?
Well, we had, some of the contracts we'd added initially probably didn't, so we started with 4 staff and we're at 6. The last time we added 2 staff instead of the 1 that we had originally intended, because some of it was because of planning for the future, and also because they were both some less experienced staff, so getting them up to speed. And so they're getting up to speed and can do more as we are getting into these additional hours that people are requesting. So, but that's why, we have another small agreement that we're gonna bring next time, and that's gonna put us at capacity without adding more staff. And it's less than like a day and a half a week is what they're requesting.
Seems like a pretty popular service that's not being met out there.
It really is. I mean, we've requests from all over. And interestingly, the League of Cities asked me to do a presentation about this at the spring conference, and they wanted me to be on a panel with somebody from the city of Kaiser who's doing this, but they're on a much smaller scale than what we are doing. So it is a need out there. It's a service that you have to have some skilled people doing it, and it's hard to find them. So
yeah, there's a lot of people like myself that significantly challenged when it comes to if it's beyond the on button, then I'm gonna have to ask for help. So they just continue to get more and more complex. It's almost like an entrepreneurial service that we're providing within the city. Maybe we should re-envision how we're managing this to help increase some of the other burdens or costs that are being placed on our budget to help close the gap on some of those things.
We are. That is one of the goals. Is one of the things we said to all of our initial customers is, this is what we think will work this year, but we're going to come back to you after a year and we're going to say, here's some adjustments, here's some things that we might need to do differently so that we can adequately provide. And everybody was open to that. They all realized, they had been significantly underpaying for poor service.
Mm-hmm.
And so to get the service that they need, and Umatilla isn't the only one that tells us that they really are happy with what's going on. Stanfield, Morrill County, all of those entities are the fire district. They're not here anymore, but working on a new phone system with them and doing all types of projects like that. So everybody seems to be very pleased. And I really have to hand it to the staff that we've been lucky to hire. They are doing a great job. They have really good skills working with people and technology, which is a great combination and not a common one.
Have we got any pushback from businesses within the community?
We did have a business come. They were actually looking, I think, to try to get us to sign up with them, and then learned what we were doing, and they said, okay, we're done. We're not interested. We can see that you're not interested. But that's the only company, and they're actually out of the Tri-Cities. They were just out looking to do some build some business. So, but other than that, we've heard from no one.
There's just not enough of it out there.
Right.
I know Val could probably talk to this from the chamber's perspective. You know, if you're a business trying to find IT services, it's really tough to find quality people that do good work.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I've got a really good one, and I'm not giving out the name.
Well, you know, we might slip them a job application.
Yeah, I don't think you can afford him. Any other comments, questions? Well, congratulations to those guys in the IT department. Sounds like you're doing great work, and business continues to grow. I just don't want to overwork them so that we can't continue to produce the product and service that we have then.
Yeah.
Mr. Rowe?
I just wanted to add on, it's great that that we have a department, and I want people, I think we as a council want people that when they think of Hermiston and love the services that we provide, it's quality, it's great stuff, and so I'm happy with the venture that we're going on. I'm happy with your leadership, City Manager Smith, and making this come to fruition, and lo and behold, we have a wonderful product. So,
yeah, thanks.
Sure.
Well, I see that, you know, you were telling them I was asking for one full-time person, basically, is what they're asking us. And that's September, so, and, you know, so that's, and I'm sure the rest of them are gonna start moving that same direction.
Well, they're probably, you know, still getting it at less than they could go out and hire an individual, put them on staff, and pay them benefits and retirement and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is with these IT services, it's hard to find all of it in one person, right? That there's networks and there's, you know, there's systems and then there's the desktop stuff, and trying to find somebody who can do all of that. And that's really where we can fill in a good niche, because we can send people with different skills and address different issues.
It's not just one single individual.
Right. And, you know, you know, we were talking about coordination and cooperation with the school district. I know our staff met with Jeff Kelso and some of his team, either they're meeting this week or next to just kind of talk and see if there's ways that we can kind of cooperate and help them as well, so that they can help us.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, Councilman? Okay, so any public comment on resolution number 2265? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 2265 and lay it on the record?
So,
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Brown, second by Councilor Hartman, that we adopt resolution 2265 and lay it on the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes unanimously 6-0. Resolution 2266, adopting an Adopt Your Street program with the Greater Hermiston Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Smith.
Yes, so I'm tired of hearing from me. So we've talked, this actually idea was brought to us from the chamber, and so we were working together for a few months trying to get the agreement worked out and get our program ready to go. But basically, the chamber's going to do the operational side as far as helping us find people who want to adopt their street, and then we will supply them with the materials, bags, gloves, those types of things. And then we'll go by after they've picked up along the street and pick up the garbage and take care of that. And so both of us, the chamber and the city, will help recognize those groups as far as our websites and social media and so forth for, you know, participating in the program. So, you know, we would recommend that we adopt this resolution and have this agreement in place with the chamber.
Will the people that adopt a street, will there be some sort of signage like you see kind of on the state highway system?
Right now, not signage. We've talked mostly about doing that acknowledgement online, so we'll have a bit of a map available to show people and other ways electronically to recognize.
I know when Val came and spoke to us before about this project, there seems to be some interest in it, and, you know, kind of living up to a standard requirement that when they commit to, you know, it shouldn't be Banker Drive looks amazing, but 8th Street looks terrible. We should hold people to the same sort of accountability and program. And so is there some processes in place to make sure that people are kind of following through on their commitments?
Yeah, I think that will be something the chamber and the city will work together on, making sure, if somebody signed up for a street and they haven't been out, they're going to lose that opportunity, and go see if we can find other people interested.
The only other thing I had was, we just went through a conversation around budgets, and now we're looking at expanding the program. How much are we talking about budgetary-wise that this is going to cost the city?
I mean, negligible staff time, we feel like it just, kind of communicating with the chamber.
Brandon doesn't have enough to do.
Yeah, well, we haven't decided, but I guess the mayor decided now. But, and then we think it's a few $1,000s annually at most to buy all of the bags and equipment. So we don't see it being a large impact.
And the beautification that we're going to get from the volunteers and
Right.
labor on cleaning that sort of stuff up would be way more expensive than.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't something we could do and pay staff to do it. We could not.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and great partnership. So thank you, Val, for bringing this idea to us. I think it's a win for the community. Any other comments, Mr. Berlin?
So in this program, will the entities be the ones picking which street that they want, or will the chamber or will the city be the ones deciding which ones are the ones to adopt?
I think we would, together with the chamber, decide which ones are available, and then groups could come and choose from those.
I guess I just think just a little bit of kind of what the mayor's comment was. I would like for most of the streets that are being adopted to be the ones really more in need, not the ones that are really, really nice already.
Right, and we're planning right now that this would just mostly be a commercial street, so not necessarily a predominantly residential area, so.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the council? Okay. Did I take any public comment? Public comment? Can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 2266, laid upon the record?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Brown, second by Councilor Brown, that we adopt resolution 2266, laid upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously 6-0. What a great partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much. We appreciate you and everything you do for the community. All right, moving on to Southeast 2nd Street Gateway Design presentation. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, so just a quick introduction. If you remember, as part of our HURA budget, it was adopted to do a project that we plan to kind of improve the intersection with 2nd Street and 295. And we're about ready to go out to bid, so we want to just make sure we show the council our designs, kind of where we're going, and it's been a great partnership, and I'll let Clint kind of talk about the work they've done with the neighbors and so forth.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up a little PowerPoint.
Yep.
You're getting me? Okay. I'm not hearing me. And just wanted to kind of bring you up. Up till now, you've only seen really pen and ink drawings of this gateway concept that we've done, and now through Anderson Perry and Greenworks, our landscape architects, we've got a lot more in-depth documents that are ready to go out. Just to kind of give you the idea of the existing alignment with where 2nd Street and 395 come together right in front of the community center. There are 2 driveways for the community center, one directly onto 395 and one onto 2nd Street. There is a little concrete island in the middle, and then traffic basically flows. There's a really high-speed exit from the highway onto 395, onto 2nd Street from 395, and then a rather dangerous and poor sight distance left turning movement onto 395 from 2nd Street. So we're basically doing a lot of pedestrian safety and vehicle safety improvements with the new alignment, which does several things. First, it closes the south driveway onto the community center, so there's no more slowing down for that driveway and doing poorly signaled turning into that driveway. With the new improvements, the north driveway to the community center moves about 30 feet to the north, so that's right next to the Papa Murphy's parking lot. We now see only entrance from 395 onto 2nd Street. Vehicles that are coming down 2nd Street now can no longer exit from 2nd Street onto 395 at all. They will need to basically U-turn. It becomes a local traffic street serving Papa Murphy's and the community center and then the real estate office on the west side. And absolutely do not enter when you're moving south on there, and there's an angry cat to make sure you do not do that. So here's just looking at it from the street view. You have the long walkway. If somebody's wanting to walk along 395, they have to kind of go enter into that no man's land, maybe even wait in the island for traffic to clear. Very, very pedestrian dangerous. The new improvements extend sidewalk along the 395 right-of-way, creating just one pedestrian crossing that is much shorter and much safer. That was looking from Highway 395. This would be looking south from 2nd Street. You can see basically where this camera view would be basically a stop sign at that point and a do not enter sign, so that you would have to either turn into the community center or into Papa Murphy's. And then you can see over on the right-hand side one of our gateway pillars that we've been talking about that were designed through our wayfinding program. They say downtown on them, and that we're hoping to have one in English and one in Spanish. Can you bring it back up? Trying to get the other view. This remote does not work very well from over here. Here you get a much higher angle view to kind of get a feel for where each of the pillars would be bracketing the street entrance and just creating a more welcoming environment. You can see we're adding quite a bit of landscaping, which we're trying to create a mix of drought tolerant plants that are low maintenance as well as some hardscape improvements. We're also carrying over the seat wall design from the Festival Street, those same materials, to create seating areas up against the community center, to create another place where we'll have a nice gathering place for photos and whatnot going on. The total budget on this is, in our urban renewal now, is $400,000. ODOT has also pledged $50,000 in safety improvements, bringing the total project to $450,000. The rough estimate for all of the hardscape work, all the concrete and paving is about $300,000, leaving us $150,000 for the landscape improvements and the pillars. We did do a public meeting on this 2 weeks ago with all of the affected property owners, Community Center, Papa Murphy's, US Bank, the Holtz who own the old America West building. We did get actually unanimous support through it. Everybody thought it was a good design and agrees that there will be a little bit of a learning curve as people are used to going down the street and going out. Even though it's never been a safe turning movement, a lot of people do it. So we're going to have to be signing, traffic change ahead, not a through street, so that people will get used to turning at Newport rather than at the south entrance here. Right now, there's no actions that I need from the council tonight, but I wanted to make you aware of what the design is, because we are looking at bidding at the end of the month, and any additional comments or things that we need to work into the design.
So Clint, the pillars, they do say downtown, I think vertical.
Yes, it's a
verbiage, and
yeah.
Also there's watermelons.
Watermelons.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of our original kind of design when we went through our
wayfinding.
and
Yes.
Okay.
Basically a 90-degree angle so that you have watermelons on one of the 90s and then the word vertically on the other side of the 90.
Gotcha. And, one of the landscaping challenges we've had along that strip is on the west side of 395. It hasn't necessarily been as beautiful, and that area sometimes hasn't been as very well managed and taken care of either. So trying to create some sort of zero-scape, low maintenance, still attractive, something that's not becomes a maintenance disaster, I think is super important.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it is hopefully going to be an impressive presentation to kind of gateway to downtown. You don't want it to look like a junkyard all the time.
Yeah, we have, after our public meeting, we kind of went back to the landscape architects a little bit and talked about tree species selection and then increasing the overall amount devoted to hardscape so that fewer plants, more areas for people to gather will lower our maintenance responsibilities. And then tree species so that those who have made investments in signage don't have trees that grow up and block all of their visibility from the highway in 10 years.
Yeah, with the downtown signage. Any other comments? Mr. Brogan?
A little bit random. Last week, I just was in Madrid, and it was beautiful there. And one of the things that I learned to really appreciate while I was there was livability, was art, was walkability, and I love this design. I like everything that you're saying, Mr. Spencer, and I would really want to put a big emphasis on anything that we do down the line when it comes to landscaping, and because I think it adds hugely to livability, to people's, pride of their own city, and I think we should make those investments. I think, another random, but we'll go into sassafras. Sometimes you buy flowers and then you have the good, you have the better, and then you have the best. I would want us to be better or the best. I want that type of pride in my city, that type of beauty in the city, and admiration and pride for community members and also visitors alike that come down to our town. So I just want to put a big emphasis on if we can do things like that, if we can bring a little bit more art or even a water fountain or something of the like, I think that would make a huge difference in our community.
Very good. Mr. Burke?
So for the entrance onto 2nd Street there, is there going to be some impediment for cross traffic from coming on southbound as opposed to trying to?
It is going to be signage.
It's just going to be signage?
There's going to be a stop bar, there's going to be do not enter. And there's going to be,
I'm talking about from the other side of 395, crossing across.
Turn left. Oh, you mean turn, oh no, we would want to encourage left turns because this is set up to be a T angle onto 395 now. So if somebody's in the left turn lane southbound, we would want them to make that turn.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. McCarthy.
So if you were leaving the community center parking lot, your choices are either exit on the same side, turning right, going north along 2nd Street, or exit out towards the back of the building on the east side of the parking lot.
That's correct. At this point now, exiting the community center will be a northbound turn.
I just want to know would all those trees, will the business there be seen? Will people still be able to see the signs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it won't be an island anymore. You're talking about that island be totally moved, then you have the sidewalks and everything else and one-way street.
Exactly. There will be ADA ramps right where the left turn arrow is that you see there, and new sidewalk. There's basically no sidewalk in that area now. Everything that you're seeing, the sidewalk actually flows directly along the frontage of the community center. So we're adding quite a bit of new area. That will be all sidewalk, and then the landscape improvements extend all the way south to the existing community center sign.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Any, no action this evening?
No action.
So I don't think you got any different direction from the direction you're going, so it sounds very positive. So thank you for your work. All right, third quarter fiscal year 2023 investment report. Mr. K.
Oh, man. They both cracked when I got up. Well, man.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Third quarter is in the books. As you all are aware, we've had some changes in the economy. Give you some quick notes. Third quarter's finished strong due to the market's flight to quality. When they get scared, when a bank closes, the fourth largest bank in the country, Silicon Valley, followed shortly thereafter by the ninth largest bank. Everybody got scared. Federal Reserve adds to the problem. They tend to be data dependent still. The market believes the Fed will reconsider their rate increases into the rest of the year. This after they raised their rate 125 basis points in their March meeting, raising it up to 5%, the highest it's been in 18 years. The market's mixed as to what's going to happen going forward at their May 2nd meeting. I believe Uncle Jerome is actually going to push a 25% basis point increase again at least. There's a lot of people say they're not sure what they're going to do. As far as the portfolio goes, and I'm with Clint, I hit the wrong button. Oh, there we go. The rate for LGIP has stayed constant at 3.75% as of January 27th. By the time of this meeting tonight, we had a maturity April 1st of $75,000 of one of our first municipal bonds. The council was kind enough to allow us to have in the portfolio, and that will be shown with the Bay Area California toll bridge revenue shown in the list of holdings. That maturity was $75,000. And then we have another maturity this month, which is a corporate bond with JP Morgan for $70,000. We will have a whole lot of maturities late summer and early fall that will reposition the portfolio very positively. We'll take any return we can get that's positive. These have been some good moves for us. I'm thinking what I'm going to do the next time at the end of the year for the fourth quarter investment, I'm going to print out an 11 by 17 sheet for each one of you. So you do not have to look at these screens because there's just no way to give you the information in a large enough screen, even when I break it down in component parts. What you have here is the maturity I spoke of earlier that happened this month. At the top, it was the JP Morgan instrument. It's no longer there. And then when I get down to the municipal bonds, you will see that that's the bond that's going to mature later this month. And I would advise the council, if you look at this in detail under a microscope, you will see that we have a current value column on all of the investments, as well as what the par value is. All of our bonds right now are at a negative position with regards to their value in the market right now. I want to remind the council, we do not do anything on speculation. We buy and hold. So the only way that comes into effect if we lose money on a bond is if we have some cataclysmic event that we need to liquidate investments for cash. That, in my mind, will not happen. But I always want you to be aware there's a par value, the face value of the bond, and what the market says it's worth during its lifetime, but we're going to hold until that bond matures. So we're not really losing money, okay? I want to be clear on that. And finally, if I can get this to work, you will see a definite change in some of the new investments that we've made. We have a number of bonds that are 50 basis points or 0.5% or 84.84% or 1%. As those mature, because nobody's going to call those bonds, we are replacing them with 4, 6, 7, 4.5, 4.15, 5, 5.40, and we were even able to get $95,000 of a, trying to see who it is.
Federal Home Loan Mortgage.
Yeah, Federal Home Loan Mortgage, 6%. Now, we do run the risk these bonds would be called at some point if rates go down. That's okay, they got to pay a premium to us to make us whole. So I'm not too worried about that. We're still going to have a good return on them. And then finally, the real reason there's a quarterly investment report is to let you know where we stand with regards to the metrics that we follow. We had cash reserves at the end of March of 14,000 and some change. Corporates comprised 35% of the portfolio as a target. We were at 28.46. Municipals were at 10%. It's now below 9.5 at 9.33. There are no limits or restrictions on any federally insured full faith and credit instruments. We had 31% of the portfolio in that. And when you throw in LGIP, 30% of the portfolio is with the LGIP. Our weighted average maturity, we like to keep it under 2.5 years. We're at 1.877. And with the uncertainty in the next 18 months, we're trying to stay below 2 years on how long we hold the investments. And the portion of the portfolio that's callable, because we do invest in bonds totally, we do not speculate with equities, 75% callable, we are at 74%. And with that, I'd be glad to stand any questions the council might have.
Thank you, Mr. Kay. I'm just proud of the way that you and the city have diversified its assets and its investments and trying to take advantage of the situations as they present, because 1 year stocks and bonds are going through the roof, or stocks are going through the roof, and next year it's bonds, and next year it's LGIP, and so it's just having a fluid diversity doesn't get you trapped in a situation where if you had it all in the stocks last year, you just got slaughtered, right? And you just cost.
Well, we don't invest in stocks, that's speculative. We invest in bonds and government agencies. They're corporate bonds, it's not stock in those corporations. So I want to make clear on that. We don't buy stock.
So with having the diversity that we have in our bonds,
yes,
has allowed us to still return a fair amount even in a down year. And so I think that's just good fiscal prudence.
Thanks, sir.
Any other questions or comments about the report? Thank you, Mr. Kay.
Thank you, sir.
So, adoption of the 2023 council goal setting report. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the first few pages right after the staff report are the results of our online polling that we did when we prioritized the goals. And then starting on page 50 in your packet is the goal setting report for our last goal setting session. And if you go then to page 59, where the goals start, you'll see how we've incorporated that prioritization ranking that we did in there and in one of the columns. And so I pretty confident this is it reflects what we've talked about in the past. And basically staff's requesting the adoption of this report, and we'll be working full steam on implementation.
You know, I enjoyed the process we went through last time to kind of prioritize things. It was kind of techy, so it was kind of neat, yes?
I don't think we had a motion to accept the investment report, did we?
No.
We might have.
No.
We did it.
Omitted that, I apologize.
Well, no, it's on the agenda, it's just on the page.
Yep.
Turn.
You gotta turn the page.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion to accept? Is there any public comment on the fiscal or on the financial report? Ladies? No? Can I get a motion to accept the second quarter fiscal year 2023 investment report as presented?
Second.
Moved by Councilor Primer, seconded by Councilor Duran, that we accept the third quarter fiscal year 2023 investment report as presented. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Coming back to the goal setting report, I enjoyed the process we went through technologically to kind of pick our favorites in the prioritization ranking. And so I appreciate the fact that we went through that prioritization, and now I think it also gives clearer guidance to staff on what the council feels like our best focus areas. I like the direction we're headed. Looks good. Any other comments from the council? Did such a great job. Nobody has any questions.
Great.
All right. And we don't have any action on this one.
Well, we would like to adopt the report, yes.
Okay. So, any public comment on? You're sure
Just look at it. It's pretty.
What's that?
Look at it. It's pretty.
Yeah. No public comment. All right.
Are you sure?
Can I get a motion to adopt 2023 council goal setting report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor McCarthy, seconded by Councilor Duran, that we adopt 2023 council goal setting report as presented. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. It's funny, I couldn't see that. I had it covered up. All right, so get rid of that page. City committee and liaisons. Any reports from? Yeah, Mr. McCarthy, go ahead.
I don't know if the art committee is a formally recognized committee, but I met with Byron and councilors Peterson and Myers almost 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, for some potential artwork to be installed at City Hall. Some locations like in the stairwell, some different locations just around the building, types of artwork. For the most part, we didn't really agree on, I would say, most of the choices that were presented to us by, I can't remember the name of the agency, but we liked the ideas for placement. There was a particular idea we liked with photographs that were made to look like paintings, which looked very interesting. And we tried to not go for too overboard on the watermelon branding across the building, but that was the popular theme. And then there was an idea contributed, and we're looking for ideas about where to do this, about having, I know we did this with Funland, about having some kind of youth rotating artwork location somewhere in the building. So that's another thing that we're looking at along with the agency, and we'll meet again. I don't know if we've set a date yet, but we'll meet again to discuss some of the other options brought by the firm and some other ideas like that.
You know, when we were back in DC, that tunnel kind of connects the houses to the Capitol. And in that Capitol, I think each state or each legislature, each district, so each legislator gets to pick an artist, and it's displayed on the wall as you're walking through this. And there were some amazing high school student artists that had their art portrayed. So that was kind of a cool concept and an idea that it's a rotational basis. I think it's a year. So once a year they go through and judge and replace those pieces of art. But that'd be kind of neat here too, if we could get some more youth engagement in that. Any other thoughts or comments about that?
Yeah. You know, going along the theme of what Councilor McCarthy was saying is, you know, something, if we had something like from the kids at the different schools, maybe, you know, each month we have one of the schools, they provide some type of artwork from the students, and we can either, you know, for lack of a better word, have a community refrigerator door. You know, the stuff is shown on, you know, shown on there or placed on the video screens or something to that nature, you know, where it can just, you know, rotate through it. You know, the kids want to come down and say, hey, my picture's up there. Yeah, type of thing. There you go.
Also talk about locations for potential branding opportunities on the building. So you can see our logo or just city Hermiston somewhere else. So it could be seen from outside as well.
So the logo that we have on the outside isn't prominent enough? What is your thoughts there?
There's no city logo, we don't have the logo.
We don't have a logo. So you're looking for a logo location on the building?
Yeah, once we had the meeting, I had some conversations with the group that kind of helped us with some of the furniture. And she's gonna come back with some more ideas that the committee will vet, and we'll come to the council eventually, so.
Yeah, because we used to have like a reader board kind of outside, right? We don't have that anymore.
But we had it was a static sign that had the logo on it, but it's gone. Yeah. Can't even remember back then.
I know. I thought I remembered, it was like a bank sign or whatever.
Yeah.
So, any other comments? No, I think, I look forward to seeing the art more that you guys are doing. I think that's going to be exciting. Any other committee reports?
No, the faith-based meets tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So
You say that every meeting. Meets tomorrow, and then we never hear the tomorrow that comes.
It's one of those every 2 months, 1, 2, okay, so, but Jackie's on the committee now too. Okay, this is her first time up, so.
Yeah, Councilor Brown.
More of a comment for Councilor Hardin. I know of a couple members in the community that have been looking for a place to, I guess, for a place to celebrate the religion and parish. I guess they're looking for like a bigger building and church. I don't know if that's something that the faith-based community or the committee, I guess, would know of, if there would, I guess, be willing to share like a building, or if they knew of a building that could be used. There's members in the Guatemalan community that are kind of outgrowing their space, and so if you know, or if you could pass that along to the committee, I know that there's a lot of members that are interested in a bigger facility or building to be able to house all their members as well.
Relay that.
Any other committee liaisons?
I mentioned earlier, I kind of forgot to speak up earlier, but there is a Parks and Rec committee meeting this Thursday.
Okay. All right, mayor's report. Been doing a lot of traveling lately.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Primer, for filling in for me last city council meeting. We had a nice visit at the Capitol in DC. Got to see all of our legislators. Met locally with our local reps, Congressman Walden and Senators Wyden and Berkeley. But we also saw Congresswoman DeReamer, Congresswoman Salinas, and I think, Hoyle. Salinas was not there. And Bonnie. So it was kind of if you guys ever get the opportunity to go back there, League of Oregon Cities does an excellent job making sure they host an event one of the evenings. This year it was sponsored by PGE. And so it's a great social way of networking arrangement where you get to meet city councilors and mayors from across the state. And we have kind of some common things that we focus on as a state when we're talking to our legislators and
as it relates to cities. So we also relay our personal cities stories, but also the overall statewide story that we're trying to present. So they kind of get us organized that way, and then another day during the week, we have a whole morning where we go to the Capitol, and they work with Senator Merkley's office to actually get a special room that holds, I don't know, 100 people in it, and then the actual Congress individuals will come through on a rotating scale. And so they each spend about a half hour with us. Some of them talk the whole time, you don't get asked any questions, and others are just real brief with their comments, and then you get to ask all kinds of questions. And so we had a large youth delegation, and cities across the state were well represented from east to west, north to south, small, big, great representation. And I don't know, there must have been probably 30 students. City manager Smith's son was there, so it's nice to have a local Hermiston representative. Although he didn't get to ask a question, we should have insisted.
I don't think he wanted to.
No, he is so quiet. He's an impressively tall, big guy, and he's just really soft-spoken. But I think he had a great time. He got to go with us one day and tour Longworth House.
And then the Capitol building.
Yeah, and so the Longworth House is where some of the representatives their offices are. Councilor Dreamer took us on a personal tour, about 7 of us, through the Longworth House, showed us her offices, and then all the other councilors' or some of the other representatives' offices, and then we went over to the Capitol, and she gave us a behind the scenes. Got to go out on the floor. Got to see some real private spaces there too, because it was a Sunday, I think, when we went. Is that right? And so there wasn't any public open touring going on. So we got the whole place almost to ourselves. So it was pretty awesome to have that experience. So I appreciate Congresswoman Dreamer for doing that. But if you guys get the opportunity, it is well worth it to see the action, on the national stage. And Lee's Cities does a great job in organizing that and putting it together. So, First Lady was there. She spoke to the audience. A couple of different directors also spoke to the audience, cabinet directors. Education was okay. Most of it was networking and get to speak to the counselors or the Congress people. So very good experience. I enjoyed that one way better than City Day, or City Summit, which was in the fall. So if you're going to go to a national conference one, I highly recommend that one. Councilor Harden was there as well. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy it?
Oh, it was a fantastic conference. It was. Great speakers. I mean, we had Secretary of Agriculture, and, and urban growth, urban development, And so, yeah, and I think, the panels that they had covered about everything that the city could want to ask. And I even went to one that was how the different cities were using their ARPA funds, basically, too. So, yeah, I would rank it very highly. Yeah, they did an excellent job. I mean, it's amazing that the things that were covered. It was incredible.
Yeah, I think that take-home message was spend the money.
Yeah.
Don't let any of it go back to the federal government. It's given to us for a purpose. Put it to work. Senator Wyden was out recently. I was able to meet with him in Boardman, actually, and got to hear all the challenges that Laurel County is going through with their water and the nitrate levels, and trying to find resources to them or for them in dealing with the nitrates, the well water issues that they're dealing with in Boardman and Laurel County. Always great to see Senator Wyden. He's always very gracious with his time. Took, questions for like 45 minutes from the audience. I don't think there was anybody there that wanted to ask a question that didn't get to ask a question. He was very generous with his time. And then on Thursday, I met with the governor. We spoke about homelessness and housing, follow-up to the OMA proposal when we met in January. So trying to find some further commitments for her. She's promised some additional funding coming out again this spring to address homelessness and housing. The first package that came out was more about new build transient housing for homelessness shelters. And so there was a lack of emphasis on facilities that are up and running and long-term operations and maintenance of those. So it didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of communities that we're building new facilities, but we can't continue to operate the ones we have open because we don't have any additional funding streams. So trying to relay those messages, she reassured us that that was something she was going to address. And then we're also talking about trying to get funding directly to cities versus going through the county or through a community action agency. Because we're the ones on the streets seeing it day to day, and we feel like as communities, as cities, that we know best on how to handle and manage those dollars. So we're trying to communicate that message to get the funding directly to cities, kind of like we did with the ARPA funding. So she was very generous with her time as well, spent about an hour with us answering a lot of different questions, and so was thankful to have that conversation. We did have a city manager, city and mayor's meeting last week as well. Courtney Crowell was there for Regional Solutions Coordinator. She is again going to be our Regional Solutions Coordinator. So it was good to see her in Hermiston. Regional Solutions is the governor's kind of task force that she puts together. I think there's 12 of them across the state. Maybe it's not 12. 8? Do you know what it is? 5? 8?
Regional Solution?
Yeah.
I think it's 12.
Is it 12? And so the governor usually uses those as kind of a work group or focus group from specific regions to address specific points. And so Courtney is our lead on the governor's staff on that. The other question I had another meeting with Dennis Doherty, and he wanted to bring up the question about Carnegie Building and his presentation to the council, and wanted to know what sort of further action was happening. Have we made any decisions? What are our thoughts about moving forward with their proposal? So do you have any more follow-up on that? Timelines?
Well, we're in the process of we're in the process of getting the space built out downstairs in this building so that we can move IT out of the space over there, and then it would become available. I'm hopeful that would be available early next year as far as completely moved out and so forth. So that's kind of the timing, and I've shared that with him. I know he's a little more anxious than that, but that's kind of what I think our timeline is right now.
I think the push from him was more about trying to get a commitment from the city that that's something that we want to do, and trying to, put together some sort of long-range plan so that his group can start going out and either fundraising or committing action to put something in process or not. And so I think he's looking for the city to make some sort of long-term commitment or not. Does the council have any thoughts about it, their presentation? You weren't here.
Me personally, I defer to the city manager, as he's the one that's trying to make that accomplished. I mean, it's not like we can shove them out the door. So they did a good job of, telling us what they wanted, but they didn't really tell us what they wanted. This is what we kind of like, but what's going to happen. There wasn't a out and out ask. It was kind of a, we're suggesting, but what do you think? And so, the city manager is moving forward with that. It's not something that's it's not a yes or no right now. And, there's still some things, still some pieces on the board as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. McCarthy?
I may be
not remembering correctly, but were there not also other considerations for the use of the building outside museum, potentially, I think the cultural center potentially being located there as well? Is that not also on the table?
Yeah, I think we really need to have the council have a little bit more discussion about, you know, what maybe could be other options, what else could we do, and if that still is the direction. I just made a note that potentially, you know, once we have that discussion, we could have some sort of an MOU that says, well, when these things happen, then, you know, we can do that. And I don't know if that's something maybe that Dennis is looking for, so that they can kind of make plans moving forward. But we could schedule that, a discussion in the council about, you know, what are some other options, and do we want to do more to figure that out, or are we satisfied that that museum idea is the idea we want to go with?
Yeah. Good. So maybe a work session later in the year or something like that?
Yeah, in the next 2 or 3 months.
Okay, perfect. That's all I got tonight. Anybody else, council? Yeah, Council Kerr?
Okay, so even though, hey, somebody else stole my thunder, I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there anyway. With it being dispatcher week, you know, having been a recipient of their services for a moment or two, our first responders are to be commended, and this week that's spent before them is nowhere near enough. They're the ones that take that first call, you know, on the worst day of people's lives in some cases. So, Captain Primer, thank you, and to all your people. Also, I would like to thank Councilor Harden for stepping in and allowing us to do the city business by calling in on the line last council session. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish everything, and that was, you know, appreciated very much, sir. So thank you. And then finally, I had the opportunity, along with a lot of other law enforcement, to attend a preview, basically, of the dance interpretation. I don't know, what do you call it? By Bria Rios. She last year did a tribute to law enforcement, and this year her focus is towards awareness towards domestic violence. Brez is an incredible young lady, and I just wish there was so much more we could do for her, and what she's doing for, you know, as a representative of our community, to go out there and bring attention to a horrific thing that happens, but, you know, she's doing something for the community, and I can't say enough good things about the young lady.
Very good. Others? Yeah, Councilor McCarthy.
I'm just remembering, and I'm sure Lily would have brought it up if she was here, but we did get an email after last council meeting that at the next council meeting, which would be today, to check back in our iPads for an upgrade to Microsoft 365, so that could be done. So
okay. Leaving them here tonight.
Yeah.
That does bring up another reminder. Is it SEI filing is due this Friday? Everybody done?
Got mine done yesterday.
Everybody's done?
Mine's finished.
I haven't started it yet, but
okay.
I got something else to do on Thursday, so
Won't get any notice by the same.
You got 6 of us that are done. That's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Hopefully it's
No
Friday.
fines for
nobody's
anybody
falling
else,
around. Anybody else? Speaking from experience.
No, no, I've got mine in on time. Once on the very last day.
Councilor Brown, you have to hit that?
Yes. I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Smith, for the recognition that we read your report, and the recognition that was done for the employees that have reached an important milestone you know, with the city. So that's very cool to see Officer Sandoval. She's the one that kind of stands out because, you know, I worked with her in a different capacity. But there are others that have worked for the city longer than 25
Two of those
people
over
I
there.
know. Chief Hermiston, Mr. Spencer. So thank you for the work that you guys continue to do for the city and for making Hermiston what it is today. You know, I can't remember where we were. Maybe it was the spring, the LOC conference that the city put on last year. And I had numerous people say that whenever they have any contact with you, Mr. Spencer, it's always been pleasant and, you know, and so, you know, we don't fish for that, you know, we don't, at least I don't ask around like, so how are the city employees? You know? But it's nice to hear from folks that just come out of nowhere and tell you those kinds of things about the staff. So I think we have a great working staff from what I hear. Based on other colleagues, you know, that say, man, I like it here. And we can see from, you know, the milestones that some of the employees have reached. So thank you for contributing. Thank you for being here. And certainly, you know, for making a big impact in our community. And I also want to thank the leadership of Senator Merkley and Wyden. They have taken their time to come and listen to a lot of the citizens in our neighboring county. I know that there's a lot of people that are frustrated, that feel like they are not being heard. And I know that there are entities also that are waiting to also get the attention of our governor. There's a lot of things, as I try to explain, a lot of fires that I'm sure she's putting out, and one of the big ones is homelessness right now. But, you know, it's really nice to see how our senators come and listen and take the time to answer people's questions. And I also wanted to share some information, although I am not the one in charge, but there's going to be an event happening on Saturday, April 15th from 7 to 9 p.m. And I'm sure you have seen the signs around town. It's called the Community Musical Brotherhood Celebration, and basically it's being put on so that it helps us as a community understand that as members of our community, we're a lot more alike than we are different. And so there's going to be speakers, there's going to be music, and as I stated, I am not the one in charge, but you know, I was informed of this event a while back ago, and I hope it's a big success.
One of your counselors is performing in it.
Counselor Kramer?
What? I'm not.
I still want to organize the council karaoke contest.
Yes, you can win
Happy
it.
Carry on my wayward son.
Create a program, you win it. So this is 7 to 9 at the high school on Saturday. Okay. Others? Anybody else? Council? No? Okay. Do we have a youth advisor hiding over there? No, okay. I can't see them over that corner. Ms. Schmidt, manager report.
You've all touched on the things that I was going to mention, so I have nothing more.
All right. We are adjourned. Have a good evening.